Okay, so we took our foam boards down, and like I said, I marked it out. As you can see here with a little bit of black. I'm going to go ahead and put down my Alex 230, which goes on white and becomes clear when it dries. We'll go to that extent there. Then I'm going to put some on the back edge, which you can't see. On my foam base. Of course, stop it. And I'm going to put it on and line up everything and be done with it. Anything that has gone beyond my want, I'll just scrape off and stick somewhere else. Next piece I'll put a little bit on. Then what I'm going to do after I get done with all this is I'm going to weight it down. And sometimes it'd be good if you mark this stuff also. We sometimes have a tendency to put the right things in the wrong place. And this will be able to slide back and forth after I put the next piece on. Everything will match up. Zigzag it. And then when you're satisfied, put your piece on. See, I got the next one marked on here. Make it all happy. And I think once I put this piece on, before I put the next piece, I'll end up clamping it down for a few hours until the caulk is set. Going to do is I am going to clamp it down and let these set up and be glued together, and then we'll come back and we'll continue with the next piece. What we want to do before we sign off or take an intermission is this piece here that goes up here. I want to be able to set this piece that goes in here at the right location. Again, a little bit of caulk, it doesn't need to be much. We're just gluing it together to keep it in place. Now, I'll weight it down and or clamp it. Get it, clamp it. Let's take an intermission and come back in a little bit. Welcome back. Hopefully you got your drink, some popcorn, and you're going to end up watching how things progress. We're going to be casting plaster and rubber molds to create our cliffs and whatnot. I do use plaster of Paris, and you can get that at Lowe's, Home Depot, your variety hardware store down the street to get your supply. I buy it in 25-pound bags because there is quite a bit of plaster that you will be using if you choose to go that route. Of course, you mix it to a plastic consistency, and it's going to take you a little while to learn how to get that. You don't want it real soupy or anything like that. You want to get it into a good consistency such as that. Plaster of Paris sets up fairly quick. So I'm going to start pouring this in my mold and start spreading it around, tapping it to smooth it out and not overfill the mold too much. That was about 3 cups of plaster of Paris. Now I'm going to spread it out and smooth it into the mold and wait a little while for it to start to set up. I know you can't see what I'm doing because of the angle of the camera, but as the plaster of Paris sets, there it is in the mold, smoothed out. I made a pencil line to show how much plaster I needed, and it'll be going up, and where's my finger? That corner over there. We're going to come down from the top and we're going to bring it down the cliff and drape it over top of the pink foam. You can tell when plaster's starting to set up it'll start to get stiff under your finger. And we are almost there. You know, if you work it, it pretty much stays soft, but as you let it set and don't move it, it starts getting a little stiffer and stiffer, about 3 or 4 minutes before you can end up moving it. So let's just hold on for a little while it's getting ready. I'm going to start to move it over into position. And we're going to use 2 types of molds. So this is almost perfect because I can pick it up and I can end up coming over here and I can roll it right onto my framework without too much trouble. Now, you might have to hold it in place a little bit, and as it hardens, it'll take shape of the mold and the contour that you laid it. It'll take about 10 to 15 minutes before it's rigid enough to pull the mold off. So if we take another break, don't be surprised, because I want you to end up seeing how this all works out. I'll wipe some of the excess. You can use it and group it in anywhere you want. It won't hurt your layout. It won't hurt. Use it to fill in cracks. You can see how it's starting to harden up and the mold is starting to stay in position. Still needs a few more minutes. Don't mind my head or my hand. And I'm using 2 different types of molds. You know, this is pretty much a smooth, rocky surface, like it's been sculpted, compared to a very sharp clevis type edge. See how I want it to stay put, if it will be nice enough. If not, see how it's starting to release by itself? That's what you want. I'll take chunks that are left, and we'll use it to fill places in. No big deal. I use plaster of Paris mostly because it's very strong. It is not like spackle compound. Spackle compound really doesn't have any strength, but compare it to plaster of Paris and you'll find out that the plaster of Paris is very strong. It doesn't crumble, it doesn't break apart, It doesn't shrink or crack like spackle or joint compound does. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to bail out and go for another intermission. In about 15 minutes after that's set, we'll come back and we'll start taking the mole off and start working on our next section of rock work. Welcome back. It's been about 10 minutes. We're going to check to see how the mole is doing. It seems like it's looking like it can start to release. You don't want to get carried away and try and peel it away. And that's our first level part of our mole. And let me get a little close up of that. Plaster of Paris will take paint really well. And what I'm going to do is, instead of boring you with, you know, loading up a mole, mixing up plaster of Paris, loading up a mole and laying it up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do about 3 more sections. You can see the mine up at the top. There'll be a tunnel to the left of it going into the mountain. There's a turnout up there for a debris right there. We'll have a debris pile. It'll go around over to this section over here, right there, and we'll have another mine. We'll have a lower mine here. If you can see back there, I'm going to be coming out with another truck over here, and we're going to make another debris pile over here. Let's wait and see how it turns out. I'm going to be pulling the buildings in the 18-inch track gauge. Now, 18-inch track and HO scale is Z gauge or Z scale track. So if you want to end up doing 18-inch mine cars and 18-inch mine locomotives and stuff like that, remember that. We'll see how this all turns out. We'll do little segments at a time, you know, and we'll just continue working on it until it's done. Maybe 5-minute clips, and we'll see where we go. You all take a break. I'll be back shortly. Come try ya. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to be casting another part of the wall. I want to go over it one more time. Make sure you don't have no goop in your mole. I call it snot. I just ended up making this pile. Let me get that out of the way so you can see. And spread it out, tap it down. Spread it out, tap it down. Spread it out, tap it down. You want it to end up filling all the nooks and crannies. I hope you guys can see this, because currently I don't have my assistant to help me. Remember I said that's perfect. That's already getting ready to set up. So let me crawl up here, and I'm probably going to be in your way doing this, but I'll be sorry. I'm going to end up making this one where the rock is down on the base, like so. There's a big piece of plaster that oozes out. Get rid of it. Bam. You know, this is how you do it. Where you want it, when you're overlapping a joint, hold it in place. I'll use that to go up here. I'll use that piece. You know, it's still moist. Fill in cracks. Don't let your plaster go to waste. Fill in the voids. This is where the mine track is going to come out. So we're good. This is getting too hard to use. I'm going to end up just scraping along the bottom like so. This stuff here I made really, really dry, so it would end up setting a lot faster, so you guys could see what's going on. You know, when it's in this shape, you can go ahead and rub it with your finger and it'll end up looking rocky and crevassy. So that's that. Let's think about pulling it down. Got a nice fissure right there. And if you want, you can end up, while it's still moist, go ahead and get some of these holes and whatnot filled in. That way you don't have to worry about it later. I also have a tendency to clean it up. It's still moist enough to do things with it. So I'm going to take that hump that I had right here out. So it'll look like there's a high-low spot in there. And now, if you look at the mold, I mean the casting, let me see if I can get in a little closer. You can't tell using the same mold that those two pieces were cast from the same mold. Those two pieces look different. Kind of like the same rock, but not exactly the same. Take a look up at the upper one. That was a fast cast. So, if I can do it, you can do it. It's So let's recap where we are and where we are going to go. We have to remember to cut our foam out first. Place it together, glue it, and make sure it's stable and in place. Then we can end up taking our rock molds and see how we want to position them on the foam. This way, whichever way you see fit is how you place the rock molds. Mix your plaster to a pudding-like consistency. Pour it in, spread it all out, leave about an 1/8 inch over the top of the mold, up to a 1/4. Make sure it's smooth. Wait till it's tacky. What I mean by that is you touch it and it starts barely pull up. Then take your mold, put it in place, hold it there or support it with weights until it hardens, roughly 15 minutes set time. Pull off your mold gently, rolling the edges so it'll pull up easy, and if the plaster's not quite set, it won't crack. Do that continuously until you're satisfied with your rock faces, any portals or caves or whatever. Cut out for recesses for buildings like a ore dump, so it gets conveyored up to the ore bin. Then when you're all done with this, make sure if you're going to put any lights in that you run the wire for the buildings. I have 2 buildings I'm going to light up. So here's the wire. When you're all done, remember, please remember that spackle compound has no structural integrity. Plaster's a lot harder. If I did that, the spackle compound with crack. In fact, I want to show you an area right now where I use spackle compound and where it all cracked. See all the cracks in it? That's because it shrinks. I'll put plaster over it when I'm done. So our next job is going to be to paint our rock in the next episode. I kind of like gray. Seeing that I'm in a granite area, or I'm used to that. But I will add browns and blacks for highlight of shadow areas. So be looking for that to come out within the next couple of weeks. And we'll describe our technique. I want to thank you very much for stopping by and viewing our Swamp Fox Valley Railway video. Please do like and hit the subscribe button so you know when we are adding another video. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be your host. My name is Joe Macaluso, owner of the Swamp Fox Valley Railway. Have a great day, and thanks again for watching.